As we discussed in the introduction to this training, this sixth paragraph is about planning. Planning represents the ability to anticipate events on the one hand and to ensure that what is planned is achieved on the other. As the first requirement of Chapter 6.1 is to take action in the face of risks and opportunities, we will review each subparagraph one after the other. Let's start with the subparagraph 6.1.1, General. A reminder, first of all, the design of the management system must be consistent with the issues at stake, the requirements with which the organization must comply, and the field of application. The risks and opportunities that need to be identified at the very least are the risks on the environmental aspects that we will discuss in the next paragraph, the risks to the compliance obligations that will be the subject of the paragraph according to the risks on the issues and requirements we have already addressed. This identification of risks must ensure that the expected results are achieved, that the undesirable effects are prevented or reduced, and that the management system is continuously improved. This identification and control must be the subject of a formalized process, and the risks and opportunities must be documented. 2 years ago, on this same channel, we filed a very complete playlist on the construction of the analysis and control of risks and opportunities. Don't hesitate to consult it. You will find, step by step, the methodology and the right questions to ask yourself in order to deploy this theme. In Appendix A.6.1.1 of the standard, very interesting examples are given as potential risks. For example, risks of pollution following a flood because rising water levels in a workshop could overturn containers of polluting products, a flood that could be caused by local or global climatic destruction or degradation, or by an insufficient risk anticipation when implementing the workshop. Let us then look at subparagraph 6.1.2, Environmental Aspects. Before detailing this paragraph, let us return to a definition that we did not address in the third episode concerning the vocabulary, the concept of life cycle. The life cycle represents the consecutive stages of the product or service from the generation and supply of the raw materials necessary for its manufacture to its end or final disposal, its possible reintroduction into another life cycle. Indeed, environmental impacts can be identified, for example, in the choices of design, manufacture, supply, during the use of the product, and the resources necessary for its use, the co-products it releases, for example, risks of misuse in its reuse, maintenance, withdrawal, etc. The requirements here are to determine the environmental aspects of activities, products, and services, and the associated environmental impacts, precisely, through the life cycle. This should cover both changes in activities, products, and services, as well as abnormal conditions. If I take the example of the workshop in the previous illustration, a polluting product can enter the manufacturing cycle, directly or indirectly, of the service and allows us to question the impacts of the production of this product on the environment, the logistics of supply, the need for storage according to volumes, volumes that can vary according to an activity and hide environmental aspects that we would forget to question in case of modification of this activity, what are sometimes called degraded modes, such as the use of this product in conditions not originally foreseen, the repercussions of an accident that would make this product react with greater impacts than those already identified. All this influences environmental aspects. This is only the beginning of the analysis. Once the environmental aspects have been identified and documented, it is then necessary to identify the aspects that are called significant aspects, using defined criteria to guide the decisions and control methods applied. Phew! A little simpler. The requirements of the subparagraph 6.1.3, Compliance Obligations. As we already said, the commitment to the requirements of ISO 14001 includes a commitment to comply with all the regulations to which the organization is subject. This is a paradox highlighted by the ISO 14001 standard. Very often, companies engaged in this certification process often analyze, and sometimes discover, legal and regulatory compliance requirements that they should already be aware of and comply with. So, what to think of all the companies that have not seriously questioned, at least, this regulatory compliance? Here, the requirements are simple. Conduct a legal and regulatory watch on compliance obligations. Analyze these obligations and identify those that are applicable requirements. Implement the actions necessary to ensure the organization's compliance with its obligations. To complete the requirements regarding risks and opportunities, the following subsection 6.1.4 Action Planning is included. These requirements are the very expression of the PDCA improvement principle. Based on data from significant environmental aspects, compliance needs, and identified risks and opportunities, actions must be formalized and their implementation and effectiveness recorded. Let's move on to paragraph 6.2, Environmental Objectives and Planning of Actions to Achieve Them, which we will deal with both subparagraphs at the same time. It is also about implementing the right principles of continuous improvement. It is required to define consistent environmental objectives. I refer you to the third video on the vocabulary for definitions of what environmental objectives are, and to plan and monitor actions to achieve these objectives. This concerns each action cited by the management standards, and it is important to remember that among the requirements, an action must be defined by the nature, or the detail of the action, the necessary resources, the person responsible, the deadlines for completion, and how progress and results are to be evaluated. So, for paragraph 6, we will now, and in the next video, deal with the media.